What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Backmarkers F1 show. Today I'm going to be bringing you the preview for the 2020 Spanish Grand Prix in Barcelona. Very much excited for this race, and I hope that you are as well. Chris here to bring you all the information that you need to know ahead of this Sunday's race in Barcelona. We'll go through all the circuit info, the news and the rumors, go through a hot lap of the Circuit de Barcelona Catalunya, and then finish off with some news, rumors, and more of my predictions and thoughts. All right, time is valuable, so I'm not going to waste any more. Let's dive right into the preview for the Spanish Grand Prix. All right, guys, so the Circuit de Barcelona Catalunya, probably the most well-known F1 track for many fans out there just because of so much testing that we've done here in the last couple of years. But we're going to go through the circuit info just in case you're new to the sport or just in case you want a little bit of a refresher of the Spanish circuit. So we're looking at the track now, 16 turns. It's a 4.6 kilometer circuit. The race will be held over 66 laps. We got the distance from the grid to turn 1 is 564 meters, so it's actually a pretty short rundown to turn 1, one of the shorter rundowns on the entire calendar. 2 DRS zones for the Circuit de Barcelona Catalunya, as you can see on the track map. DRS zone number 1 coming on the start-finish straight, and then the second one coming in between turn 9 and turn 10. All right, so now as we get into the track characteristics, what's this track like? What's going to be challenging for the drivers? It is a high downforce circuit, but it's unique in the fact that it has a lot of low-speed corners, medium-speed corners, and then high-speed corners as well. So this is what makes this track very ideal for testing because it puts your car through every single pace, and it really lets you know how your car performs. It's like many drivers have said, if your car is good around here, it can be good anywhere. So this track really puts drivers and their cars through the paces. It's one of the things that I do like about this track. So the lap is taken at full throttle 72% of the time. Of course, with the high downforce cars nowadays, not really many massive braking zone except for turn 10, for example. Now, looking at the track in terms of which corners are going to be the most exciting, which corners are the best for overtaking, I wanted to kind of highlight in Sector 1, obviously Turn 3, that's probably the most famous corner on this entire circuit. With the modern F1 cars having so much downforce, especially the Mercedeses, I think it's going to be really thrilling to watch those cars go through in qualifying. A lot of stress being put on the tires, which we're going to get to just in a minute. It produces one of the highest G-force loads on the entire calendar, so that corner is going to be one to watch. As we head down into the rest of the circuit, obviously the blind right-hander of turn 9 is obviously another one that you want to locate. Tricky corner, obviously the apex is blind as you're going uphill. Most cars, I think, should be able to go through their flat in qualifying. Maybe the likes of Ferrari might have to lift off a little bit. But obviously after that, you're heading down into the second DRS zone and down into the run to turn 10. And then as soon as you get into turn 10, obviously that's a big overtaking opportunity. Probably the slowest part of the track with the exception of the final chicanes in Sector 3. Now, it is a little bit difficult to overtake at this track, especially in the race once we get tire management going and once we have cars following each other. Now, we've seen overtakes happen and going into turn 1, if you remember Vettel and Bottas a few years ago. And you could sneak a turn maybe in the final sector in turn 15 and heading out to 16 for the long start-finish straight. But overall, I think the best overtaking opportunities will probably be after the turn 9, heading down into turn 10. All right, let's get into tire talk then. I know tires have been a pretty hot topic ever since the British and Silverstone Grand Prix. So I just wanted to let you know that Pirelli are bringing the C1, C2, and C3 compounds for this race. Now, the compounds do make sense. Obviously, the amount of load that is generated on the tires going through Sector 1, as I just mentioned before, but then also the slow speed corners in Sector 3 really punishes the rear tires. And then conversely, the high load corners are going to put a lot of stress on the fronts and the rears as well. So it makes sense to bring the C1, C2, and C3. And with hotter temperatures as well, I think that the harder compounds were probably the best decision to go for in this case. And with those hot temperatures as well, I don't think a one-stop is 100% guaranteed. Last year, all but one car was managed to pull off a one-stop strategy. But biggest difference this year is that the race is held in August instead of May when it usually is. So it's a lot hotter now. We're going to get into the forecast just in a little bit. But it is looking hot in Barcelona. So don't expect a one-stop from everyone. I think the one-stop will actually be a little bit trickier to pull off this weekend. Pirelli ranks the tire stress as 4 out of 5. As I just mentioned, it makes sense. With the high load corners and then also the slow speeds as well. And the minimum starting pressure set by Pirelli for this race are 23 psi for the fronts and then 20.5 psi for the rears. So not as high as the second race in Silverstone. So just a little bit of extra knowledge there from Pirelli for that case. All right, let's get into the weather forecast. Now, this time of year in Barcelona and in Spain, it's very hot. This is unusual for us coming to a race in Barcelona. Usually we go in testing when it's fairly cold and damp in February. And now we're coming in August when it's going to be scorching hot. And looking at the current forecast, they're expecting sun all the way from Friday to Sunday. Now, just pointing out at the moment that I'm recording this, Sunday there is a risk of a thunderstorm. Only 40% chance, and not expecting more than a millimeter of rain, so I probably don't think anything will materialize out of that. Other than that, if we're looking at the temperatures, Friday 29 degrees, Saturday 29 degrees, and then Sunday race day 28 degrees as well. And with the humidex, it's going to feel above 30 degrees. So it will be a hot one. I'm expecting track temperatures to probably be north of 40 degrees. So it's going to get really interesting. And we're going to get into my predictions a little bit later on as to who this will benefit and who should be afraid of the temperatures. All right, well, you've heard enough of me ranting and raving about the technicalities of the circuit. Now it's actually time for you to see it in action. Now, I did this lap on F1 2020 of the circuit Barcelona Catalonia, and I did it in Carlos Sainz's McLaren. Seeing as he's the only Spanish driver on the grid, I figure I'd tribute him by running the McLaren around the circuit de Barcelona Catalonia. I hope you enjoyed the lap. Okay, well, that was a lap of the Circuit de Barcelona Catalunya. Let me know in the comments what you think of my driving down below. Remember to keep it polite. I'm getting better every day now that I do these. So now it's time to get into the news and the rumors of the week heading into race day. So we're going to start at Williams. They will be debuting Roy Nissany in FP1 this weekend at the Spanish Grand Prix. Now, Roy will be replacing George Russell for FP1. It's the first time that we'll see Nissany in the Williams car officially in a free practice session, so he will be replacing Russell. Now, of course, Nissany is the Williams reserve driver, and he has been competing in Formula 2. So we've seen this obviously with Williams in past years with Latifi jumping in a couple of free practice sessions. So this weekend we will see Nissany in for FP1. My second piece of news that I had is obviously concerning Sergio Perez and his status for this Sunday's Spanish Grand Prix. Now, last week it was reported that it was 99% sure that Perez would be racing this weekend in Barcelona. At the time I'm recording this, again, no official update yet on whether he will race or not, obviously pending his COVID test, so we're going to have to see what happens there. Hulkenberg is still on standby again after a great performance in Silverstone, so he's ready to go. But it seems like a lot of people are sure that Perez will be back in the car, and I know Sergio is fairly eager to get back racing as well. So fingers crossed that Perez will be back in the car this weekend. It's going to be a track I think that'll be nice to their car. So I'm sure he's hoping to get back and turn a couple of laps in anger around Barcelona. So again, follow our Twitter at TBMF1 Show for updates on that. Now coming to Ferrari, I think Ferrari will be expecting another tough weekend here in Barcelona. Vettel will be getting a new chassis installed in his SF1000. Obviously, as many of you are aware, he's been struggling a lot, especially with the two races at Silverstone. He really wasn't confident with the car at all in any session. So Ferrari are giving him a new chassis. And interesting to point out, actually, that following an investigation at the factory, Ferrari found an issue with the chassis caused by an impact and have opted to change it ahead of Barcelona, but stressed they don't think the issue was fundamental. Quote, there will be no particular updates on the SF1000. However, Sebastian will have a new chassis because after the Silverstone post-race analysis, we spotted a small fault caused by a heavy impact over a curb. That was said by head of chassis engineering, Simone Resta. And then he goes on to say it would not have much of an effect on performance, but it was the logical decision to take. So we're going to be paying attention closely in free practice to see if any of these updates are going to help Vettel. But it seems like Ferrari have made some sort of a commitment to help Vettel with his struggles, so hopefully this will bring him some performance. And just my final piece of news, guys, heading into this weekend. This is pretty much in the news almost every race weekend, and that is Racing Point and their whole brake duct controversy. It continues again for this weekend because Racing Point have decided to appeal the verdict in the brake duct case. Now, if you guys remember, they were fined 400,000 euros and deducted 15 constructor points, but they didn't think that that was fair, so now they're going to appeal it. So, just quoting this article here, so it is not surprising that the team have pushed through with the appeal, with the case now going forward to the FIA's International Court of Appeal. The date has yet to be determined. It comes after Ferrari and Renault also opted to official appeal against the verdict, with Ferrari also specifying they are appealing against the reprimand handed to Racing Point at Silverstone. However, McLaren, Williams have opted not to follow through with their appeal. No surprise on that one, considering Williams and McLaren will have an interest with Mercedes. Obviously, McLaren going to Mercedes engines for 2021, so not surprised with that. Renault did win the protest, but they are appealing it. They want a heavier penalty. They want more action done, so this will probably be in the news for every single race preview from now until this ever gets resolved. So just a quick update on that. I'm sure you'll be hearing more of it during free practice and throughout the race weekend. So that'll do it for the news and the rumors for this week. I've kept it a little bit more compact for this race weekend. If I happen to miss anything or if any breaking news happens to come out, which usually does happen after we upload videos, just drop it in the comments below and your fellow viewers and I will also be able to take a look at it. And finally, let's get into my predictions and thoughts on this weekend's race. Again, as I mentioned off the top of this preview, I'm very excited for this race. I think that with Max Verstappen winning in Silverstone the second time around, it really made you think a little bit, and it showed that Mercedes has some slight weaknesses in terms of running in very hot temperatures and with overheating tires as well. So with this quick turnaround with the triple header, I'm not sure if they'll be able to figure out those issues quick enough, so we might see Mercedes struggling again. And I also think that even though we are in a harder compound, blistering might not be so much of an issue, but we probably will see some graining issues. And we saw obviously in the Silverstone race that Max Verstappen and Red Bull were much friendlier on the harder tire in comparison to Mercedes. So if Mercedes aren't able to figure out these overheating issues, Red Bull could be on for another win again. They're going to have to put themselves in position, obviously, in qualifying, most likely qualifying on the C2 tire. I don't think many of the top teams will want to opt for the C3 in qualifying to start that race on. They'll probably want to avoid that tire altogether with the exception of qualifying. So I'm very interested to see what's going to happen. I just hope, and I think I can speak for a lot of the fans, that we'll get to see Hamilton versus Verstappen going head-to-head at some point in this race. That would be really exciting for us fans. Now, we have done thousands of kilometers around the circuit. We did a bunch of testing in February, but I think we can forget all of those testing numbers, who was good here, who was not. Obviously, we know teams like Mercedes and Red Bull will be strong around the circuit, and the teams like Ferrari and Alfa Romeo will struggle a little bit more. But I think that having racing here in August versus February and even May is completely different. We haven't done it before, so I think it could throw up a couple of really good surprises for us. And finally, I'm expecting another strong showing for Racing Point. I mean, this is obviously where they debuted their very controversial car. They were the third in testing. They were really good around this circuit. I think that this circuit suits their car very well. They're obviously strong in the high-speed corners, very good traction out of the slow-speed corners as well. So this should be another good circuit for them and another good weekend. I know that they qualified really well in Silverstone, wasn't able to necessarily bring it together in the race. If Racing Point can really nail the strategy once and for all, they could be on for a surprise podium if something happens at the front between a Red Bull or a Mercedes. So I'm expecting another good showing for the Racing Point team. Well, that'll do it, folks, for the 2020 Spanish Grand Prix preview. Now it's your turn. Get down in the comments below. Let me know what you think is going to happen this weekend. Drop some predictions in the comments. Which teams are going to do really well, which other teams are going to struggle, and also rank your podiums. Let me know who you think will finish on the podium 1 through 3 for the Spanish Grand Prix. Now, if you still want some content from last week's race, the 70th anniversary Grand Prix, I got the podcast I did with Tyler that's up available, and I've also got the 5 essential thoughts that's available. You can find all that on the homepage of our channel. If you're new here and you're watching us for the first time, please consider giving us a subscribe. Even if you are subscribed, make sure you hit the notification bell beside the subscribe button. That just gives you a notification every time we upload a video so that you never miss it. As always, guys, we're on social media, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at TBMF1Show. You can always reach out to us there, ask us any questions you want, or any comments you have on our content. I appreciate everybody watching us, and I'll see you again next time.